What happens when one of comedy's most brutal truth-tellers sits across from someone who thinks they can out-debate him? You're about to witness one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about celebrities who can't handle being challenged. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one. The studio lights were blazing as Ricky Gervais settled into the guest chair on The View, that familiar smirk already playing at the corners of his mouth. He'd been on countless talk shows, faced down Hollywood's elite at award ceremonies, and never once backed down from saying exactly what he thought. Today would be no different. Joy Behar leaned forward in her seat, clearly relishing what she thought would be an easy target. "So Ricky, you've made quite a career out of offending people. Don't you think there's a responsibility that comes with having a platform?" Ricky chuckled, adjusting his position slightly. "Responsibility? Yeah, I've got one responsibility, Joy. To be honest, something that seems to be in short supply around here." The other hosts exchanged glances, but Joy pressed on, her voice taking on that condescending tone she reserved for guests she disagreed with. "But surely you understand that words have consequences. When you mock certain groups or beliefs, you're potentially hurting real people. And when you pretend that reality doesn't exist to spare people's feelings, you're doing them a far greater disservice." Ricky shot back without missing a beat. "I don't mock people for things they can't help. I mock ideas, particularly stupid ones." Joy's smile became more forced. "So you think religious beliefs are stupid?" "I think believing in something without evidence is stupid, yes. Whether that's religion, astrology, or the idea that you can have a meaningful conversation about free speech while trying to shut it down." The studio audience murmured, and Joy's co-host shifted uncomfortably. Whoopi Goldberg tried to jump in. "Now, Ricky, I think what Joy is trying to say is—" "No, let him answer." Joy interrupted, her voice rising slightly. "I want to know how someone who claims to care about truth can be so dismissive of billions of people's deeply held beliefs." Ricky leaned back, that dangerous glint in his eye that anyone familiar with his work would recognize. "I'm not dismissive of people, Joy. I'm dismissive of bad ideas. And the idea that we should treat all beliefs as equally valid regardless of evidence is one of the worst ideas going around." "So you think you're smarter than everyone else?" Joy snapped. "No, I think I'm more honest than most people. There's a difference. Smart people can believe stupid things when they're too polite to admit they're wrong." Joy's face was starting to flush. "That's incredibly arrogant." "Is it arrogant to say that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius? Or that the earth is round? Facts don't care about your feelings, Joy, and neither do I when it comes to comedy." "But you're not just stating facts, you're making jokes at people's expense," Joy pressed, her voice getting sharper. "Whose expense?" Ricky asked, genuinely curious now. "Give me one specific example of me making fun of someone for something they couldn't help." Joy hesitated for a moment, clearly not expecting to be challenged for specifics. "Well, you've made jokes about transgender people." "No, I haven't," Ricky interrupted firmly. "I've made jokes about the logical inconsistencies in gender ideology. I've made jokes about the insistence that we pretend biological sex doesn't exist. But I've never made fun of any individual trans person." "That's splitting hairs," Joy said dismissively. "No, that's the difference between attacking ideas and attacking people. You might want to learn it before you accuse someone of being cruel." The tension in the studio was palpable now. Sarah Haynes tried to lighten the mood. "Maybe we should talk about your upcoming projects." But Joy wasn't ready to let go. "I just think there's a difference between being honest and being needlessly provocative." Ricky's expression darkened slightly. "Needlessly provocative? Joy, you've spent the last 10 minutes trying to paint me as some kind of bigot because I don't think all ideas deserve respect. How's that for needlessly provocative?" "I'm trying to have a serious conversation about the impact of words," Joy said, her voice taking on a lecturing tone. "No, you're trying to score points with your audience by making me look like the bad guy. The difference is, I'm honest about what I'm doing." Joy's mask slipped completely for a moment, genuine anger flashing across her face. "So now I'm dishonest? When you misrepresent what I've said and try to make it sound like I attack vulnerable people? Yeah, that's dishonest." The studio fell silent except for the hum of the cameras. Joy stared at Ricky, clearly not used to being called out so directly on her own show. Joy's jaw tightened as she regrouped, clearly deciding to take a different approach. "You know what, Ricky? I think the real issue here is that you hide behind comedy to say things that would be unacceptable in any other context. Ricky raised an eyebrow. Hide behind comedy? Joy, comedy is the one place we're supposed to be able to say uncomfortable truths. It's literally the point. But there's a difference between punching up and punching down, Joy said, leaning forward aggressively. When you make jokes about marginalized communities, you're punching down. According to who? Ricky asked. Who decides who's up and who's down? You? Some committee of people who think they know better than everyone else? Joy's voice rose. According to basic human decency. Basic human decency? Ricky repeated slowly. Would be treating everyone as equals instead of patronizing certain groups by pretending they can't handle a joke. But you wouldn't understand that, would you, Joy? What's that supposed to mean? Joy snapped. It means you've made a career out of treating people like children who need you to protect them from scary words. That's not compassion, that's condescension. Whoopi tried again to intervene. Okay, I think we're getting a little heated here. No, I want to hear this, Joy said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Please, enlighten us about human decency, Ricky. Human decency is honesty, Ricky said simply. It's treating people like adults who can handle reality. It's not pretending that men can become women just because it makes people feel better. The studio erupted in gasps and murmurs. Joy's face went red. Did you just say what I think you said? I said men can't become women. It's basic biology, Joy. No amount of wishful thinking changes chromosomes. That's transphobic hate speech, Joy declared loudly. Ricky laughed, a genuine laugh that seemed to infuriate Joy even more. No, Joy, that's just speech. The fact that you can't tell the difference is exactly the problem. You're sitting here denying the existence of transgender people, Joy accused. I'm denying that changing your clothes and getting surgery changes your biological sex. Trans people exist, gender dysphoria is real, but that doesn't mean we have to pretend biology isn't real. Joy was visibly shaking now. You're promoting violence against transgender people. How? Ricky asked calmly. Explain to me how stating a biological fact promotes violence. Because when you deny someone's identity, you're dehumanizing them. Joy shot back. I'm not denying anyone's identity. I'm saying identity and biology are two different things. You can identify as whatever you want, but that doesn't change objective reality. Joy slammed her hand on the table. This is exactly the kind of rhetoric that gets people killed. Ricky's expression turned cold. Joy, you just accused me of having blood on my hands because I won't pretend men can get pregnant. Do you hear yourself? I hear someone who refuses to show basic respect for vulnerable people, Joy said, her voice shaking with anger. Vulnerable people? Ricky repeated. You mean adults who can make their own decisions? Or do you mean people you've decided need you to speak for them? Joy stood up from her chair. I'm not going to sit here and listen to hate speech. Then don't, Ricky said calmly. But don't pretend that's what this is. This is you being confronted with an opinion you don't like and having a tantrum about it. A tantrum? Joy's voice cracked. I'm standing up for people who can't defend themselves. No, you're standing up for an ideology that falls apart the moment someone asks basic questions about it, and you're doing it by trying to silence anyone who disagrees. The other hosts were looking between Joy and Ricky like spectators at a tennis match. Sunny Hostin finally spoke up. Maybe we should take a commercial break. No, Joy said firmly. I want to finish this. Ricky, do you think transgender children should be denied medical care? I think children shouldn't be sterilized because they don't conform to gender stereotypes, Ricky replied without hesitation. Joy's mouth fell open. Sterilized? What are you talking about? Puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, surgery, all of which can permanently affect fertility. All of which are being given to children who haven't even finished developing their brains yet. Those treatments save lives, Joy said desperately. According to who? The same medical establishment that used to lobotomize people for being gay? The same people who are making millions of dollars off this trend? Joy was breathing heavily now. It's not a trend. It's people finally being able to live authentically. Authentically, Ricky mused. Joy, what's authentic about telling a little girl that because she likes trucks and hates dresses, she might actually be a boy? That's not how it works, Joy protested. Isn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like we've taken every gender stereotype feminists spent decades fighting against and turned them into evidence that someone was born in the wrong body. Joy was visibly struggling now, her usual quick comebacks failing her. "You're oversimplifying a complex issue. I'm pointing out that the emperor has no clothes, Joy, and you're getting angry because you've invested so much in pretending he's wearing a beautiful gown." "You're a bigot," Joy said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Ricky smiled sadly. "And there it is. When you can't argue the facts, you go straight to name-calling. Very progressive of you, Joy." Joy's face was now a deep shade of red as she realized her usual tactics weren't working. She sat back down, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the edge of the table. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" "I think I'm consistent," Ricky replied evenly, "which seems to be more than you can manage." "Consistent?" Joy let out a bitter laugh. "You're consistently cruel. You consistently punch down at people who are already struggling." "Joy, I've never punched down at anyone. I punch up at bad ideas, regardless of who holds them. The fact that you think certain groups can't handle having their ideas challenged is your prejudice, not mine." Joy's voice became shrill. "Don't you dare lecture me about prejudice. I've been fighting for civil rights longer than you've been telling jokes." "Fighting for civil rights," Ricky repeated thoughtfully. "Is that what you call trying to shut down anyone who disagrees with you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like fighting for the right to control what other people think and say." "I'm fighting for people's right to exist," Joy declared dramatically. Ricky leaned forward slightly. "Joy, nobody's questioning anyone's right to exist, but existing doesn't mean everyone has to agree with your interpretation of reality. When you deny someone's gender identity, you're denying their right to exist as who they are." Joy shot back. "No, I'm denying that feelings override biology. There's a difference between respecting someone's choices and being forced to participate in their personal mythology." Joy stood up again, this time pacing behind her chair. "Personal mythology? These are people's lives we're talking about." "Exactly," Ricky said. "Real people with real struggles who deserve honest conversations, not fairy tales that fall apart the moment you examine them critically." "You have no idea what transgender people go through," Joy said, her voice cracking with emotion. "You're right, I don't. But I know what children go through when adults project their political beliefs onto them, instead of letting them figure out who they are naturally." Joy whirled around to face him. "So you think parents are just making their kids transgender?" "I think there's a social contagion happening, and I think a lot of well-meaning adults are making life-altering decisions for children based on ideology rather than evidence." "That's conspiracy theory nonsense," Joy spat. "Is it? Then explain why the rates have increased by thousands of % in just a few years. Explain why it's predominantly affecting teenage girls now when it used to be predominantly adult males. Explain why entire friend groups are coming out as trans together." Joy was silent for a moment, clearly struggling to find an answer. "Maybe people just feel safer coming out now. Or maybe we've created an environment where confused kids think medical transition is the solution to normal adolescent discomfort with their changing bodies." "You're fear-mongering," Joy accused. "I'm asking questions that any rational person would ask when children are involved. But apparently asking questions makes me a bigot in your world." Joy's co-hosts had been unusually quiet, but Alyssa Farah Griffin finally spoke up. "I think there might be some middle ground here." "No," Joy cut her off sharply. "There's no middle ground with hate speech." Ricky laughed again, shaking his head. "Joy, everything you disagree with isn't hate speech. Hate speech is a legal term with a specific definition, not just opinions that hurt your feelings." "Your opinions hurt people," Joy said desperately. "My opinions are based on observable reality. If reality hurts your feelings, that's a you problem, not a reality problem." Joy was now visibly shaking. "You're sitting here denying the lived experiences of millions of people." "I'm not denying anyone's experiences. I'm saying experiences don't change facts. A person can experience themselves as Napoleon. That doesn't make them the Emperor of France. Comparing transgender people to someone with delusions is disgusting," Joy said, her voice barely controlled. "I'm comparing the logic, not the people. The idea that internal feelings can override external reality is the same whether we're talking about gender or anything else." Joy slammed both hands on the table. "You're a hateful, transphobic bigot, and I won't pretend otherwise anymore." The studio fell completely silent. Even the camera operators seemed to freeze. Ricky looked at Joy with something approaching pity. "Joy," he said quietly, "the fact that you've resorted to screaming insults at me tells everyone watching exactly who's really on the wrong side of this argument. I'm on the side of human dignity, Joy declared. No, you're on the side of ideological conformity. Human dignity would be treating everyone, including me, with enough respect to engage with their actual arguments instead of just calling them names. Joy's eyes filled with tears of frustration. I can't believe we're giving a platform to this kind of hatred. You invited me here, Joy, and the only hatred I'm seeing is coming from you. Whoopi finally stepped in forcefully. Okay, I think we need to wrap this up. But Joy wasn't finished. No, I want everyone to see who Ricky Gervais really is. This is what happens when we normalize transphobia. This is what happens when someone challenges your assumptions with facts and logic, Ricky replied calmly. You have a complete meltdown and start throwing around accusations. Facts and logic? Joy's voice was now almost hysterical. Your facts are cherry-picked statistics and your logic is just dressed-up prejudice. Then counter them with better facts and better logic. Oh wait, you can't, so you just call me names instead. Joy pointed a shaking finger at Ricky. You are everything that's wrong with comedy today. You hide behind free speech to spread hatred. And you hide behind compassion to spread authoritarian nonsense. At least I'm honest about what I'm doing. Authoritarian? Joy's voice cracked completely. I'm fighting for people's rights. You're fighting for the right to control language, thought, and reality itself. If that's not authoritarian, I don't know what is. Joy turned to the camera, tears now streaming down her face. I want everyone watching to know that these views do not represent the values of this show or this network. Joy, Ricky said gently, you're having a breakdown on live television because someone disagreed with you. Maybe take a step back and think about what that says about your position. I'm having a breakdown because I'm watching someone spread hatred and pretend it's comedy, Joy sobbed. You're having a breakdown because you've never had your beliefs seriously challenged before, and you don't know how to handle it. Sunny Hostin tried to restore some semblance of order. I think we all need to take a breath here. But Joy was beyond reason now. He's a monster, she said, pointing at Ricky. An absolute monster who gets off on hurting vulnerable people. Ricky stood up slowly, his expression a mixture of sadness and disappointment. Joy, I came here in good faith to have a conversation. You've spent the entire time trying to paint me as evil because I won't validate your worldview. The only person who's been cruel here is you. Get out, Joy screamed. Get out of here right now. I'm not going anywhere until the interview is over, Ricky said firmly. You don't get to invite someone on your show and then throw them out because you don't like what they have to say. Joy looked around desperately at her co-hosts, but none of them seemed willing to back her up. Sarah Haynes was staring at her hands, Whoopi was rubbing her temples, and the others looked deeply uncomfortable. This is my show, Joy said weakly. No, this is The View, and it's supposed to be about different perspectives, but apparently that only applies when everyone agrees with you. Joy sat down heavily, her fight seemingly gone out of her. I can't do this anymore. Then don't, Ricky said, sitting back down himself. But don't pretend that having your ideas challenged is some kind of personal attack. The remaining few minutes of the interview passed in uncomfortable silence, with the other host trying desperately to change the subject while Joy sat staring at the table, occasionally wiping tears from her eyes. As they went to commercial, Ricky could be heard saying quietly, "This is exactly why we need free speech, folks." When people react like this to basic questions, you know they're defending something that can't stand up to scrutiny. Joy didn't respond. She just sat there, the picture of someone whose entire worldview had just collapsed on live television. What did you think of that explosive confrontation? Did Joy Behar cross the line, or was Ricky Gervais too harsh in his responses? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more unfiltered celebrity moments that the mainstream media doesn't want you to see.